In 2008, the economy crashed, and I found myself in an extended period of unemployment, my house going into foreclosure, and facing homelessness a second time. I needed to give myself purpose. So I grabbed a camera, and I started empowering homeless people to tell their own story. I started traveling, and I didn't think the work would take off, but literally millions of people are reached every week with the realities, the true realities of homelessness. I also didn't expect homeless people to be reaching out to me on Twitter, on social media. Anne-Marie was one of the first. So on the very first Invisible People road trip, I'm going through Chicago. Now, we had interacted a little bit over social media, but I never met her. So I'm going through Chicago, and she tweets, and she says, "Do you want to connect?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm responding, "Yeah, let's connect." No response from her. I'm responding, "Let's connect." No response from her. I realized the next day she had to wait till she got to the library before she could respond. So internet access to people experiencing homelessness isn't like what we take for granted every day.
Now, you use social media, and we've connected, what, maybe 6 months ago or so via social media?
Perhaps, yeah.
And actually, please forgive me, I was coming into Chicago and even forgot you were here. And last night, you woke me up on Twitter and said, "Hey, you're here, I'm still here, I'm homeless." Tell me about being homeless and using social media. Why are you on Facebook? Why are you using social media and Twitter? And does it help you?
Oh, it helps a lot. And one thing it does is, kind of like educates people, I guess, to my situation, and helps them to understand more of what I need and what my life is like. It helps me a little with stress. I can do little venting sometimes. I can send a message through a cell phone or on the internet and say exactly what my thoughts are at that moment.
Now, how often do you get internet access?
It varies. Whenever the library is open, depending on my schedule. It might be just for a few hours a day. It might be for the whole day. It could be, a few days a week or almost every day.
And now you're using, how do you use Twitter on your phone?
I just do a text message. I don't get internet on my phone, but I signed up on Twitter to access it by the phone, which I love, so I can still get my messages out.
So imagine that you wake up tomorrow morning and the battery's dead on your smartphone. Freak out. Or even worse, the battery's fully charged and, oh my gosh, there's no internet access. The Wi-Fi's down. My phone bill's down. Now imagine that you're a young female going to sleep in an alley homeless in Chicago. One of the things that Anne-Marie taught me that so powerful and really shaped a lot of my digital inclusion work is how social media and the internet can help fight isolation. Literally one night she was going to bed in an alley in Chicago and she shared on social media, "I'm not alone because I have all of you guys with me." Now, Anne-Marie is no longer homeless. Thanks to a relationship she found on Twitter, she was able to find housing, and watching her transition from homeless to home was just amazing. So she lives in housing in Chicago, and she's been reunited with her daughter. Just a wonderful, wonderful story. So smartphones, internet, it's changed everything. I mean, gosh, we got a flashlight, we have a camera, we have navigation, we have news, we have weather, we can look up doctors, health services. How many of you spend time on WebMD and oh my gosh, I got this problem, I got that problem, oh, how do you cure the common cold? Smartphones have really changed everything we do. 79% of us have our smartphone with us except for 2 hours a day. So how many of you this last week, or maybe even yesterday, went out to dinner and spent more time on your phone than with the people you're with? Come on. Yeah, let's be honest here. So how many of you take a selfie in the last day, in a week, right? Yeah, come on, let's be honest, let's be honest. How many of you have done this? Yeah, good, yeah. 84% of us check our cell phone before we brush our teeth in the morning. Literally, the internet and social media and smartphones have become a lifeline for all of us. Now, I had a Google alert go off, and I clicked through, and here's this homeless guy in an Apple store in New York City video blog.
James Christian Jr. I'm here at the Apple store on 5th Avenue. I just did a video on We Are Visible. I just discovered a channel on YouTube called Invisible People. The videos on it are people who are homeless, their testimony. Mark Horvath, I want to congratulate you on your time of sobriety and your cause.
So I had to go down to New York City and meet James. So James is homeless and he's living in Central Park. When the weather gets bad, like most East Coast cities, northern cities, people will ride on a train all night to sleep. So the internet was his escape from homelessness. You know, just like all you guys binge watch on Netflix, you know, to escape whatever you're going through. The internet was just a way for him to not think about his life and to access support services. So we went out and we started to talk. I took him to lunch, and I realized how cool it was. He was able to get internet access. Now, James said to get to the library, you had a 45-minute window, and that's if you're lucky, because in libraries in New York City, there's a lot of demand to get to a computer. So often, he wasn't even able to get on the list. But if you would blend it in at the Apple store, which the Apple store on Upper Fifth Avenue was a 24-hour Apple store, he'd get on the internet whenever he wanted. And I thought, wow, how liberating, how much freedom he got from that. But then he's also tethered to that Apple store. You know, it's actually, in a way, a little bit of a prison. And so I quickly went on the internet and I started a crowdfunding campaign. And we raised money to go buy James a tablet. So one of the most wonderful experiences was actually being in the Best Buy, allowing him to pick out his own tablet. And one of the things, true homelessness is absence of choice. It really is absence of choice. You're told when to sleep, what to eat, when to shower. So being able to provide somebody a path to dignity is by allowing them choice. So we allowed James to pick out his own tablet, and he was very open about his homelessness with the sales clerk, and it was just really a wonderful experience. So we went up to Lincoln Center. They have an atrium that has free Wi-Fi. And James started putting his tablet together, setting it up. And his first picture, he wanted to take a picture of me. So of course, I got to take a picture of him taking a picture of me. I mean, I had to. It was amazing. So on trips after this, a couple times I've gone down and I've visited James, and we'd be walking on the streets of New York, and he knew every place that had free Wi-Fi. We'd be walking and he'd say, oh my gosh, this place, they don't lock their Wi-Fi down, or this place, hey man, I can get on the internet and I can access that. And I was able to stay in contact with him, even up till today. So this is the second tablet that I bought James. Now, I don't know what happened to his first one. Maybe it was lost. I mean, homelessness sucks. You're carrying everything in a backpack or just a bag, or maybe you don't even have that. So maybe it was stolen. Maybe he sold it. Maybe he sold it for food. Maybe he sold it for a pass to get on a train, to get out of the rain. I don't know, and it doesn't matter. And the point is, when we're looking at digital inclusion, when we're looking at providing internet access for people experiencing poverty and homelessness, we can't allow missing equipment to be a roadblock. So James now buys, this is a tweet from about a couple months ago. So James now is buying his own mobile devices. As I was researching for this talk, it was kind of weird because I really started to notice this. You know, we all walk around with our phones. It's natural. It's natural anymore. I mean, thank goodness for iPhones, because when we get in the elevator, we don't have to look at other people, right? You know, it's become a way of life. We're all walking like this. It's normal. We think it's even cute or funny that seniors are using cell phones, that seniors are using smartphones. 56% of children between the age of 8 and 12 have a smartphone. That's cool. That's acceptable. That's fine. There's no problem with that, right? But when it comes to somebody experiencing homelessness, oh my gosh, that's not acceptable. So Michelle Obama was at Miriam's Kitchen in Washington, D.C. for a volunteer event. And this photo went out as part of the PR push. And Los Angeles Times grabbed onto it. This unidentified meal recipient is too poor to buy his own food. How can he afford a cell phone if he really is homeless? Where do they send the cell phone bills? So that just shows what we think about people that are homeless or in poverty having smartphones. And it's not just the LA Times, it's everybody. And just to bust a myth, most homeless services have mail drops. We provide mail services for people experiencing homelessness. And there's P.O. boxes, and there's a lot of ways to get your mail. And it was, I don't know what it is about poverty that we look at people and we say, oh my gosh, it's their fault. So even worse than how we believe homeless people and people experiencing poverty shouldn't have the technology that we all take for granted. There was a study done by Princeton that 22% of the American public believe homeless people don't have any redeeming value. Literally, that's a quote. Any redeeming value. So I met RD similar to how I met Anne Marie. The only difference was RD was in a different state than I was. And we started a Twitter conversation, and for 8 months, RD was about to be evicted, and she was looking for help. She was going to all the social services, but there was no help. So a week before she hit the streets, a week before she was literally going to be a homeless female, literally before she was going to be on the streets, she interacted over Twitter with me, and I was able to navigate her to an emergency shelter, so at least she never ever spent a night outside.
RD.
Yes.
Lost awareness on Twitter. You're homeless.
I am.
Tell me about it.
In what respect? The fact that it's cold, the fact that it's difficult to find a bathroom, the fact that the people of my community are not only on the streets, but some of them are ill, some of them are addicted, some of them have mental issues, some of them have physical issues, some of them don't have any issues at all except that they lost their homes. It's a difficult place to be. Homeless is not accepted by the standard person. They look at you and go, what are you going to steal? What is it I'm going to lose by dealing with you? Or, oh my God, you stink! Well, that's what happens when you're not able to take a shower daily.
It's got to be hard.
It's tough, yeah.
I was even asked last week, a homeless person, how do you use technology? How do you, now you're at a winter shelter and I see you there with your laptop. Obviously, people think homeless people shouldn't have technology.
Yeah.
That's kind of dumb, don't you think?
Not only do I think it's dumb, I think it's prejudicial. And I think it's one of the serious ills of our civilized societies. Because if you're not good enough, you shouldn't have the toys.
Right.
Well, a computer, a cell phone, an iPod, they're not toys. You use them every day in your work. The people around you use them every day in their work. They can't get their jobs done without them. Yet, we, as the homeless, from a huge group in our cultured United States, expects us to find jobs walking from place to place with no clothing, with no decent haircuts, with shoddy sanitary conditions, and we're not allowed to utilize the equipment that you must have to get your job done? Uncool.
It is uncool. It's uncool that, you know, how do you find a job if you can't access the internet anymore? But yet we don't think homeless people should access the internet. Isn't that kind of strange? So let me ask you this. If you knew you were going to be homeless tomorrow, if you knew that for whatever reason you're going to not know where a roof over your head will be, what are the two things that you're going to make sure to take with you when you're not looking at food and clothes? Your laptop and your cell phone. I guarantee you those are the two things. So right after this video, RD and I spoke at a very large Twitter conference in Los Angeles, which was really awesome, and she shared her experience. And shortly after that, again over Twitter, this is RD signing a lease to her apartment. And thanks to Twitter and a woman named Shalene Bryan, she helped RD get her own place. So RD was one of the first people that I supplied hardware to that was homeless. And this was, you know, before tablets, they had iPod touches. Anybody remember those? So RD could get on Skype, she could call people, she could get on Craigslist and look for work. She could find get on the internet, you know, on Safari and be able to surf as long as there's Wi-Fi. So the internet is so much of everything we do. And for homeless people, there's so many values that I'm sure you can think of more than I could have the time to talk about. But one of the most important is providing tangible social interaction. And, you know, isolation when you're out on the street. So many communities have what's called a warm line. And that's like not an emergency. You know, emergency is 911. It's a warm line where you just call to talk to somebody. And whether you're talking to your priest or your bartender, everybody needs to talk to somebody. So I envision something like that over social media. I envision a room very similar to how we have the 211 support system, where you have operators standing by when somebody needs to find food or needs to find housing or needs to connect to social services. I see that happening over the internet. And how do I know it works? RD, Anne-Marie, James. I call it virtual case management, and in the next very few years, I think it's going to become a reality. So the conversation of digital inclusion has become very popular. There's recently in Coachella Valley a school superintendent that empowered, put Wi-Fi hotspots in several school buses, and they park them overnight where there's low-income families. And that has actually helped that it's increased the graduation rate by 10%. Our government has something now for public housing called Connect Home, where they're putting internet access into low-income housing. There's also there's so many nonprofits that, you know, one laptop to a child, and are trying to do digital inclusion and hardware for developing countries. And it's all very, very important. But there's nothing, there's no programs. There's one that I found in San Jose that is trying to do exactly what I'm talking about here, but they keep on running into roadblocks because there's no support, because people just believe homeless people wrongly believe homeless people shouldn't have access to technology. So this is TED, and this is Ideas Worth Sharing. And the good news is you guys are going to now have a new paradigm. You guys, when the conversation of homelessness and technology and internet and smartphones comes up, you'll be able to say, oh no, let me tell you the truth and how it can save lives. Let me tell you that everybody, including homeless people, deserves access to the internet. Thank you.